Back on May 5th, about 1 month before the Nintendo Switch 2 launched, there was an article that came out from IGN saying the Nintendo Switch 2 has to face a problem the original didn't: handheld gaming PCs. And this was a very interesting article because I think it was a paid article from ROG Ally or Portable PC People or whatever the case is, because the article was ridiculous. The more that you read, they talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 being too expensive and so expensive for the system and everything. Then they never even mention the prices for the ROG Ally X, the more powerful one. They talk about all them a little bit or extensively, but don't actually mention the prices. So that was just weird and threw me off from the very beginning, especially from a professional article. But that's not the point. When I actually quote tweeted this article, I said, this is going to be the modern day, the PlayStation Vita is set to succeed article from IGN. For those who don't know, there was an article that they did a decade plus ago when the 3DS and the PS Vita were coming out, and there was a writer who wrote like the PS Vita is gonna like crush the Nintendo 3DS. Essentially, that's what he was trying to say because it has all these games and this and that. And we all know what happened there. The Nintendo 3DS absolutely smoked the PlayStation Vita, and Sony has not made a true dedicated portable since then. But I said it's going to be the second coming of that. Now, I don't think portable PCs are going to stop. I don't think portable PCs are bad for people that want to tinker around or have their Steam library or PC or emulation or whatever the case is. I'm not against the portable PCs. I've tried them out. I tried out Steam Deck. I tried out ROG Ally. Not for me. I like the dedicated systems that are built specifically for gaming where I don't have to deal with PC stuff. I like PS Vita. I like PSP. I like the DS. I like 3DS. I like dedicated portables, or even the Nintendo Switch, a dedicated hybrid. But that's not the point. The point was that I said that, on May 6th. The article was May 5th, and then on May 6th, which is once again right about a month before the Nintendo Switch 2 officially launched, I said that it was going to be the modern day PS Vita is set to succeed. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now at this point, because we've gotten the sales numbers that came out. And the sales numbers said that the Nintendo Switch 2 sold 3.5 million units in its first 4 days on the market. Just to let you guys know, that is a console record. A console record, not just a Nintendo record. Nintendo said, oh, it's the Nintendo record, but that's a console record overall. The most that any system has ever sold in the first 4 days. Now, kudos to Nintendo because they were able to actually get enough stock in order for this to happen. The PS5 and the Xbox Series, they launched during COVID. There was a chip shortage. They could not get the stock that they needed to get. Plus, they dealt with crazy scalping and manufacturing problems. There was just all sorts of issues, which is unfortunate. But regardless, even if there wasn't all that, it's still really impressive to see the Nintendo Switch 2 break this all-time record when it comes down to it. And if you put it into context, in comparison to what IGN was trying to say here, the whole market of portable PCs has sold 6 million units as of a little bit earlier this year. That's the numbers that we know. These companies like Asus and ROG Ally and Valve, they don't actually give the numbers. So they have to rely upon another company that looks into some of the numbers through their own sources. And they gave us a number for all portable PCs, about 6 million. For the Steam Deck itself, they gave a number of about 3.7 to 4 million. Maybe that's a bit more at this point. But clearly, as you can see, the trajectory of the Nintendo Switch 2, with consoles selling faster than they can even stock them at this point, it is going to pass up, or has already passed up, the Steam Deck. So it was really funny to see that they wrote that article and it was already proven wrong. And it was already looking foolish at this point. Because if you look at it overall, portable PCs are not in the same type of league as a console or a dedicated console, what you can sell. It's just not. Even if you want to compare like the PS Vita or the Wii U, two of the worst selling main devices from Nintendo and Sony, those have even sold significantly more than any portable PC. So the fact that IGN and the fact that PC Gamer and these different places were trying to hype up portable PCs as some type of real contender to a console was absolutely ridiculous. There never was a problem with portable PCs. That was never going to be an issue in the first place. And all you had to do was look at the sales numbers of portable PCs, which they conveniently left out in that article, by the way. They never talked about the sales numbers at all, but it was never going to be a problem. Portable PCs are a niche type of device for enthusiasts on PC. That's really what it is. It's not a real dedicated portable platform or real dedicated console that's going to get the type of games that you would see built specifically for it. That creates a whole different atmosphere. What Nintendo has with the Switch 2 is a higher powered device over the Nintendo Switch 1 that can play a lot of the newer games, in addition to being able to play the whole backlog of the Nintendo Switch 1 games in far better quality than what we got before. That is a special thing when you combine that with dedicated hardware and software built for it. So when the Nintendo Switch gets a game like Donkey Kong Bonanza, you know it's not just going to be, okay, it's a verification test, because it's really built for more like a higher end PC. It's actually built specifically for that system, and you have events and announcements built specifically for the audience. It brings a whole new level of potential sales. It brings a whole new level of excitement and a different atmosphere than, here's this PC thingy that can run your games from your PC, from your library, and you know it's going to be good. Well, maybe it'll run good, maybe it won't, depending on what type of model that you got, but it's a very different thing than a dedicated device like the Nintendo Switch 2. So seeing people run those articles, I thought it was really silly, and it's already been proven. I was exactly right. It only took 4 days for me to be proven right about this article there. And it's not just IGN. PC Gamer also ran a ton of articles talking and comparing the Nintendo Switch 2 to like Lenovo Legion Go and to other things like, hey, I love the Nintendo Switch 1, but Switch 2 looks like every other console now. A worse PC with a few exclusive games, which just isn't true. If you look at the Nintendo Switch 1, it's backwards compatible. There's a ton of exclusive games. There's way more than a few. Plus, there's a bunch of exclusive games that are coming out, you know, this year that are new, like Age of Imprisonment, or games like Donkey Kong Bonanza, obviously Mario Kart World, there's going to be Kirby Air Riders. So it's just weird. It was just like a weird thing, and it was never something that was actually going to be for real when it comes down to it. But they tried. I would say that the misinformation and the smear campaign, whatever you want to call it, it backfired spectacularly overall. If you look at everybody that was talking, other YouTubers and people trying to sit there and say things, it ended up just backfiring. And I think a lot of these guys actually just went out there and bought one, you know, ended up actually liking it at this point, because it is a good device from what I've played. Not perfect. I did my review. Go check out my big review on the Nintendo Switch 2. I talked about the pros and the cons and everything like that. But yeah, it is what it is on there. But you know what else is what it is? You guys hitting that subscribe button and entering in to win a Nintendo Switch 2. Link in the description below. Make sure you subscribe. Go enter in. Now let's go ahead and get into the next topic here. So the next thing up now is talking about what happened in Japan, because we actually have more records being smashed overall. Gematsu came out with their sales report for the week in Japan, June 2nd, 2025 through June 8th, 2025, which covered a few days of the Nintendo Switch 2 launch, which was officially on June 5th. So we've got the first details and numbers, and it's actually pretty significant here because the Nintendo Switch has now become the biggest launch in Japan of all time, and it's not even close, to be honest here. And we've also got another big record for Mario Kart World. So Mario Kart World was the top selling game. It sold 782,566 overall units in Japan. Now, I'm not exactly sure how they did with the bundle compared to separate digital sales, because digital isn't counted on the Famitsu, it's just physical. So they're probably counting the bundled sales in addition to the actual physical sales without the eShop digital sales directly from the stores. So just keep that in mind. But either way, it's the biggest launch for a Mario Kart game of all time in Japan. And of course, the Nintendo Switch 2 itself is the biggest launch ever for any system. And with that, the Nintendo Switch 2 did debut at 947,931 units. And an interesting thing to note here is that that doesn't include the My Nintendo Store pre-orders and sales as well, which Nintendo did have a huge allotment just to their My Nintendo Store. So if you add that in, we're probably looking at 1 million plus. Now, the next closest would be the PlayStation 2, which did around 600 and something thousand units, with maybe a bit more in terms of orders that were fulfilled later down the line. But overall, the Nintendo Switch 2 is the best-selling debut for any system ever. Pretty much tripled up plus on the Nintendo Switch 1, and I can see this system doing incredibly well for a very long time in Japan. And I think we kind of all knew this was going to happen, considering with the Nintendo Switch 1 and how that's the best-selling system of all time, that there'd be a lot of people that are excited for the Nintendo Switch 2. But I think that Nintendo still has their work cut out for them overall, because there's still a lot of Japanese gamers who still want one and can't get one because you have to enter a lottery just to be able to get a Nintendo Switch 2. So the sales are going to continue strong for a good amount of time in Japan. Now, we also have the top 10 sales for some of the other third-party games that released on Nintendo Switch 1 and Nintendo Switch 2. And this one gets a bit more tricky because you have upgrades and you have digital sales and you have game key cards, and there's all sorts of weird stuff that's kind of going on right now. But the top 10 here, I'm liking the fact that Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma is in at number 2, over 47,000 units, although that's underneath what they were able to do previously before overall. You got Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, the Switch 2 editions of the games, Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, which is a game key card in Japan. We're gonna have to wait and see where like Street Fighter and some of the other games did rank when we get the top 30 later down the line. But overall, when it comes to Mario Kart World and the Nintendo Switch 2 itself, those had massive debuts, and I just see them consistently selling throughout this whole generation overall. And of course, it's going to be adding to that massive total that we already got when it comes to 3.5 million units, which is a record for consoles worldwide in the first 4 days. So what do you guys think about the Japanese sales here for Mario Kart World and the Nintendo Switch 2? Let me know in the comment section below. Next up, we're going to discuss what is happening with the restocks with the Nintendo Switch 2, because you need to be on the lookout. If you weren't able to grab a Nintendo Switch 2 in the opening weekend, do not fear. Your man Jake Randall is here. Well, he's going to be informing you, so make sure you guys go check out Jake Randall's channel on YouTube or his Twitter page, but I'll also be talking about it as well. It looks like there was restocks at Best Buy, but they sold out very quickly recently. But Walmart Canada has stated there are going to be more restocks as well, so look out for that this Friday, it seems. Also, my boy Ralphie stated that there's going to be restocks in Walmarts in certain areas. Look out for Best Buy as well, because they are going to be going very quickly. You want to get in on there if you want to get ready for Donkey Kong Bonanza, or maybe play some of the other games that have come out, backwards compatibility titles before that title comes out. So yeah, just look out for Walmart, look out for Best Buy, and follow Jake Randall on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter too, at PlayerEssence, to get updates on when these restocks are happening. Just want to make sure to let that information out there, because a lot of you guys still haven't gotten one and you want one. So let's get into the next topic here, and that is going to be Trails in the Sky. First chapter, we've got some new trailers for Estelle Bright and Joshua Bright. I love the fact that they're starting to promote the game more. The only issue with this game is that there isn't a native Nintendo Switch 2 version, and I'm hoping that the frame rate is uncapped on the Nintendo Switch 1 version, or there is a patch that they do for this game as quick as possible, because I would love to be able to buy it on the Nintendo Switch 1 and run it at 60 frames per second on the Nintendo Switch 2. So I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work, but let's talk about Trails in the Sky first chapter. Estelle Bright character trailer. So here's her official description. A bright and determined bracer trainee from the guild, a girl from Liberal Kingdom, training to become a bracer in order to protect the safety of the civilians and peace of cities. A bright, outgoing, and optimistic girl who never gives up, no matter the situation. Her sincere nature leads her to trust others easily, and her actions are often impulsive. Trained by her father, veteran bracer, she possesses considerable combat skills. For the past 5 years, she has been striving to become a senior bracer alongside her adopted younger brother, Joshua. Trails in the Sky first chapter due out for the PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, PC via Steam on September 19th. So it's coming up. And we're also going to go over another character trailer, and that is for her younger adopted brother, Joshua Bright, a boy burdened with an unknown past. A boy with jet black hair that kind of looks purplish blue, when I'm looking at it at least, and amber eyes, burdened by an unknown past. A boy taken in by the Bright family 5 years ago with jet black hair and amber eyes. He always appears cool and composed. His hobbies include reading and playing the harmonica. Highly intelligent and level-headed, he often finds himself supporting the impulsive Estelle, keeping her in check. That's what smart little younger brothers do, right? His past prior to his adoption remains a mystery. There are times when he seems lost in thought and has a habit of demeaning himself. So I'm very much looking forward to this, man. Like, this is what I wanted from the Trail series for a long time, because they've been just releasing game after game after game, and there was so many, I just got overwhelmed and overloaded. But now they're going back to the beginning, canon-wise. What should you play first? This is it, and it's remade, and it looks awesome, and it's on the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 5. This is awesome. This is great, and PC. Everybody, for the most part, can play it, you know? So it's really cool to see this happen, and I'm going to be picking this up day one, 100%. I just hope that the Switch 1 version is uncapped, because that would be sweet, because there is no Nintendo Switch 2 version at this point, and I'd rather buy it on the Nintendo Switch 2 so I can play it anywhere instead of just being able to play it on my TV with the PlayStation 5 version, which I was planning on getting, but we'll see how the Switch 1 version holds up on Switch 2, or if they announce a Switch 2 version coming up soon here. So what do you guys think of Trails in the Sky, first chapter, the new character trailers? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.